The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NBA Big 3 in 30. The 3 biggest stories in the NBA from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NBA Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in the NBA. You are Locked On Grizzlies, your daily Memphis Grizzlies podcast.
We're going to get started in today's show talking about the beatdown that the Memphis Grizzlies put on the Los Angeles Lakers, 131-114 win. A lot of Grizzlies players played well in this game. Ja Morant was good before getting injured. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Jaren Jackson Jr. had 20 points. Santi Aldama, another double-double. I mean, look, if you're still sleeping on Santi as a rebounder right now, him at the 3 with his ability to rebound, it has been pretty evident so far. 11.12 rebounds there. Jalen Wells, we'll talk about him later in the show as well, 20 points. Ja Morant had 20. Zach Edey had 8.7 rebounds, 15 minutes off the bench. You got Jake LaRavia with 13 points, 5 boards, 8 assists, just stuffing the stat sheet. Scottie Pippen, he keeping it going, 14.6 rebounds, 4 assists. Basically, a lot of different players. Jay Huff, Brandon Clark, Luke Kennard made his season debut. So many contributors to this game. But we're going to focus in this first segment, particularly on Ja Morant, because I talked about it yesterday as we were talking about some storylines going into this game. And I said, Grizzlies players, if you remember, shout out to the everydayers, because you tuned in every day. You probably saw this sequence happen in the game, and you already knew what was going on. Because I said it yesterday, Grizzlies players were not pleased last season when LeBron James and the Lakers came to town in Memphis and LeBron's doing the windmill dunk right in front of that Grizzlies bench with Desmond Bane, Ja Morant, Luke Kennard, Vince Williams, a bunch of injured. All those guys were injured and pretty much in street clothes. All those guys could only just sit over there and watch, and LeBron's laughing in their face, smiling in their face. And again, I mentioned that, Desmond Bane gave him a push at one point. Ja Morant gave him a push after the windmill dunk that I just mentioned. Those dudes didn't take that kindly. And if you've been watching the Grizzlies for a while now, you know that there isn't a starstruck bone in these dudes' body. Like it's kind of the good part about them in a way, in terms of when they approach a game against a guy like LeBron James. I guess the best way to put it is, they respect what he's done for the game, but all that goes out the window when they're on the floor. They don't care anything about that. So another example has kind of formed in this most recent game, and the sequence that we saw happened late in the second quarter. It was when Ja Morant drove to the basket, had Gabe Vincent on him, got an and one, shot it over the top of him, did the famous too small gesture in the NBA, lowering his hand to the ground, basically saying the defender on me is too little. So then LeBron James gets an isolation against Ja Morant, and Ja Morant said he felt like it was a charge. And if you look at the play, he did kind of bulldoze over Ja, but 6'8", 250, big guy. LeBron James bulldozed over Ja, gets the layup, and he does the too small celebration right in front of Ja Morant. And Grizzly teammate helps Ja up, and he's laughing. And I'm knowing, this isn't the end of it, because this is Ja Morant we're talking about here, and that history component that I mentioned is also a factor there. And then the history even goes deeper than that if you want to factor in the playoffs and all that stuff from a couple years ago, 2023 playoff series. But anyways, Ja Morant comes up the floor, it makes a bank shot over another Lakers player. It wasn't even over LeBron James. And LeBron James is about to get the inbound pass. LeBron and Ja literally runs over to where LeBron is, gives him a nice little shove, little bump in his back. LeBron moves a little bit. Referees see it. Technical foul on Ja Morant. Ja said in that moment he was trying to, he was firing his teammates up. But in addition to saying that, he said a whole bunch more. He talked about the fact that, again, what I mentioned as part of the thing from last year. Ja said he didn't like that. These guys came on our floor and taunted us and things like that. He pointed that out. himself, as well as, the fact that the Grizzlies, weren't healthy, at the time. And the Lakers weren't healthy in this game. And then the Grizzlies weren't either. Desmond Bain was out. Anthony Davis were out. So a lot of injuries were in this game. But several notable quotes from Ja Morant in this one. And one of them, I don't back down from nobody. I don't care who you are. My job was to come back. I got my bucket, and I set the tone. My teammates fed off of it, and you see what happened. And what happened was a big-time Grizzlies victory. But Ja Morant straight up said, I don't like them, referring to the Lakers. And as to why he said he doesn't like them, he mentioned the fact that the Lakers put them out of the playoffs. He mentioned, the fact that, again, the Lakers players, referring to LeBron James, for the most part, he said they came on our floor and beat us on our home floor, was laughing, playing, looking at me, talking. And he said, my message to them was I was in street clothes. So this time, Ja Morant wasn't in street clothes. And I'm telling you, what I said at the top about this isn't a rivalry. Like, I don't want any Lakers fans to come on here getting things twisted like Warriors fans used to do early on in that sequence. But the Warriors-Grizzlies thing started to me, at least feel like a budding rivalry, because you had the Grizzlies who beat the Warriors in the play-in series, and then the Warriors come back and beat them in a competitive second round series, and then they get matched up against each other on Christmas the following season. So there were a lot of storylines going on there, in addition to everything happened in between the lines of Dylan Brooks, Gary Payton, Steve Kerr saying Grizzlies broke the code. All these different storylines factored into, this really feels like a rivalry. Like, these teams just aren't fond of each other. This one doesn't feel the same way. This feels just like the Grizzlies they don't like the Lakers. Ja Morant said he doesn't. And if you were watching on the FanDuel Sports Network broadcast, Scottie Pippen Jr., who had a solid game, was getting interviewed after the game. And Desmond Bain, who's another player, has been a little bit vocal, about, the competitiveness when it comes to playing against the Lakers, basically goes over there, interrupts the interview between Scottie Pippen Jr. and FanDuel Sports Network, and calls LeBron James old. He didn't say LeBron James by name, but it was very clear who he was talking about, because here's what he said. He said, y'all seen the way he snatched the ball, referring to Scottie Pippen Jr. Y'all seen the way he snatched the ball from that old man over there? And that's what Scottie Pippen Jr. did in the fourth quarter. He snatched the ball from LeBron James. So I guess that's the old man over there, 39-year-old, who is actually, the oldest player in the NBA. So, not a lot of love lost between these two teams. Even Jaren Jackson Jr., who, he's not really the trash talker that Desmond Bain and Ja Morant, have come to be in their tenures in the league. It's a little bit different with Jaren, but even he acknowledged that, that Lakers series, that playoff series, is not something that's lost on the Grizzlies. He said, the playoffs left a bitter taste in our mouths. He said, any team we play in the playoffs, win or lose, it's just forever beef. It's forever beef. They're never going to be too kindly, too friendly when they see the Lakers. So that's just what it is. I think that's the way this game played out. And you know what? They see them in another week. I'm going to be looking forward to that game, simply because maybe Rui Hachimura, who missed this game because of illness, Anthony Davis could potentially be back. But even on the Grizzlies side, a guy like Desmond Bain, we'll learn more about Ja Morant. And I'll end this segment there, since talking about Ja. We didn't get much, on his right hamstring injury. He left the game, if you weren't watching, in the third quarter. A foul should have been called. It was kind of clear to me, and Ja pretty much was very disappointed, I'll say, disappointed after the game in the fact that a foul wasn't called. I even talked to Jake LaRavia, who threw the alley-oop pass to Ja Morant when Ja jumped into the air. He believed that Ja was undercut, and if you look at it, Ja hit the ground pretty hard, injured his hamstring. He spent most of the game over there, the rest of the game on the bike in the tunnel. Was walking gingerly when I saw him. So, I think this kind of puts into question his availability for Friday based on what we saw. But we'll learn more, in the next couple of days on Ja Morant's availability going forward as far as that goes. And speaking of availability, what about Zach Edey's availability? Zach Edey just came off one of the best games a rookie center's had in recent years, right? Right? And then he comes back, doesn't play a lot against the Lakers.
Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. And that winning $5 bet could be on an NBA matchup. Tonight, the Sixers head west to face the Clippers, and the spread is teeny tiny. FanDuel has the Clippers favored by just 1.5. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
The LA Clippers defeat Paul George and the 76ers in his return as he was booed in every possession.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast.
Clipper Nation, how we feeling? I'll tell you how I'm feeling. Really good. Tired physically, but still very energized mentally for this episode. How could I not be buzzing after that one? My voice, if it sounds a little bit more croaky or raspy than normal, I lost a lot of it booing Paul George. So let's get into that. We're going to talk also about the standout performer in this game, and to be honest, this season, Norman Powell and the defense, and why I thought that led us to the win. But we're gonna hit all the points. Let's start with the beginning. Paul George. We were waiting for him to come out of the tunnel because the Sixers team had come and we didn't see Paul. Eventually he comes out, and he's coming out in that tunnel. The away tunnel is right in front of the wall. So when he comes out, we are booing him big time when we saw him walk out. And they started dancing. Kyle Lowry and Paul George, they were like dancing to the boos and acknowledging it. So I thought that was fun. But before I say anything more about the crowd, because I know that was a big thing going into this game, the attendance at Intuit Dome is concerning for a fan like me. If you're a Clipper fan, try to get one of these wall passes or supporters passes. And let me ask a question. For those that aren't, why aren't you? Let me know in the comments. I'm just curious, right? Because here's the thing. It's just a bad look when you have such an incredible stadium and you have worse attendance than you had in the Staples Center. The Kawhi thing definitely is concerning, and that's definitely why some people don't want to come. I'm not seeing that concentration of neutrals that we used to have that were like Laker fans or just fans that wanted to come see a game, which I'm fine with. But you're pricing out your own fans, and the $70, $60 parking is really bad. I mean, the best player on your team is 35-year-old James Harden. You shouldn't be charging that much. I get it's a new stadium, but what are you going to do? Unless you're going to have games like this that should be more affordable, a little more empty than you want it to be. Because if we had even more people, the boos would have been even louder. Because I had heard them on TV, and they sounded pretty good. Louder than any Clipper game has ever booed an opposing player. I talked about Elton Brand on the episode on Wednesday, but this was on a nationally televised game, but it was not great attendance. So get to the games, people, but also I want to know your reasons if you're not. Paul George actually had a really good game shooting the ball, but he had some things that we knew were, I shouldn't say knew were going to happen, but there were things that he did that we are used to. One, all the shots he was hitting, and for a while he hadn't even missed. He finished the game 7 for 9. And he was on a minutes restriction, so he only played 24 minutes. But he finished with 18 points, 7 boards, 2 assists, 3 steals, and a block to go along with 7 for 9 shooting and 2 for 3 from deep. But all his shots were contested jumpers, all of them. And as I said in the episode on Wednesday, he did not have a good shooting game against Phoenix in his first game. So it's very likely he could have one of those heaters against us. which he did, but because he was on a minutes restriction, and when he's in the game, one, he doesn't work very hard for the ball. He doesn't demand the ball. We know that. Two, we did a pretty good job denying him the ball and getting our hands in passing lanes all night long, and especially in the second half. But overall, I'm happy that he was on a minutes restriction because he was hitting. I can't even hate. But one thing we were doing was we weren't letting him get anywhere with the handle. All his shots are contested jumpers. We know as Clipper fans that's not sustainable for him. And he was turning the ball over left and right. It was funny in the beginning of the game when he was making passes off the live dribble. We were like, I was like watching my head because I knew he might pass it out of bounds. And he was nearly overthrowing, players. It was crazy. His passing, he's still loosey-goosey. He's still going to turn the ball over a lot. He turned the ball over 4 times in this game. And we as a team did an incredible job of forcing turnovers for the entire 76ers team. And that comes from good man-to-man defense, at the point of attack, good solid rotations, but also having active hands in the passing lanes. I think the Clippers this season do a really good job of just having their hands out, making themselves big off the ball. And I think Chris Dunn and Nico Batum and Derrick Jones Jr. are probably the best examples of that. But James Harden, he has his fair share of strips throughout games. He's really good with his hands. In the first half, he was appalling defensively. I can't lie. First quarter, he was just bad all the way around. But I thought he picked it up defensively in the second half, and they were targeting him a lot. Both teams, as I mentioned in the Wednesday episode, were targeting the opposing team's point guard. So Clippers were going for Maxey because they knew he was going to switch on the pick and roll, and then the Sixers were going for Harden. And I thought in the first half, Harden got blown by a couple times way too easily, but in the second half, he did a very good job of staying solid, being physical, and he got his hands on some of the ball defensively. As far as Maxey, I thought Harden did a pretty good job of not necessarily blowing by him, but trying to bully him a bit, and at times forced help, and that got the ball moving, and we had guys attacking closeouts, namely Norman Powell, who was just unbelievable in this game, and we'll talk about him more in the second segment, but he had 26 points to lead the way, and a lot of those are with James Harden's dribble penetration and just the attention that he's drawing. I also thought we did a very good job throughout the game, just like we did against San Antonio, of feeding Zoo and Norm more in the first half and letting Harden slowly cook more in the second half, which is probably something that the coaching staff has tried to do to have James Harden, fresher in the second half of games. I've already seen a little bit of it in these first 2 games. But again, the Sixers without Embiid aren't a very good team, especially with Paul George on a minutes restriction. But I have to say, I thought Terrence Mann did a very good job. As I mentioned, he would be guarding Tyrese Maxey if Derrick Jones Jr. was guarding Paul George. And I thought he did a pretty decent job keeping him in check. But of course, Maxey tried to get Harden on the switch a lot, and I thought he held his own. Another guy that he tried to get into the switch was Norman Powell. I thought he held his own. But overall, the Paul George return, it was epic. It was fun. The Clippers had their first double-digit win of the season by turning it around in the second half. I shouldn't say turning it around, really turning up the gas. And it starts with our defense. That first quarter, Philly actually outscored us 27-24 because we didn't do a good enough job on the glass. And also, guys were just passing up wide open shots. Terrence, Kevin Porter Jr., Chris Dunn, even James Harden, I believe, one time. Second quarter, it was actually the exact same score, but flipped. Clippers 27, Sixers 24. How often do you see that? So we're deadlocked at the half. And then in this third quarter, we turned it around. Or really, as I said, turned on the gas. 33-17 Clippers in the third. And in the fourth quarter, they outscored us 30-26, but we went up by as many as 22, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, 22. But yeah, attendance listed at 15,627 in a stadium of 18,000. So not a great sign there. As far as some big takeaways, the Paul George return was fun. It was epic. It was historic because, oh, by the way, so he got his video tribute. And even the wall, most people were clapping. I was just filming. I didn't know how to react, to be honest. I just wanted to hear the wall. Because not that I don't appreciate Paul George for what he did. I appreciate it greatly. I acknowledge that he could honestly be the 3rd best Clipper of all time. But I didn't feel like appreciating him tonight. I thought after all these years, I've backed him up. He's stuck his foot in his mouth so many times and just showed a lack of desire at times for a championship. and never took accountability really outside of the 2021 season and the 2022 season. I think these last 2 years were he was all over the place, and he was the first year as well. So then the comments he's made after didn't deserve any love. But I was okay with applauding during the video tribute. Some people were still booing, but he clapped for the rest of the arena and then waved off the wall because we booed him all night. But he's a joker. After the game, he even mentioned that it's stupid. Like, dude, he's just so like unaware of what he says and does. Like, and if people were wondering, there were signs that said PG, watch what you. I think it was watch what you speak, or watch when you speak, or something like that. Think before you speak, I believe it was. I mean, some of it was a little forced, in my opinion, but it was all fun and games. I think Paul George deserved what he got. He still had a very solid game. He turned the ball over 4 times and lost. So who really won? Who really got, ended up with the last laugh? The Clippers and their fans. 110-98. We win it. That's 2 in a row. 4-4 on the season. Clippers win the Paul George revenge game. More like us getting revenge for the stuff you put us through outside of 1 year.
Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. And that winning $5 bet could be on an NBA matchup. Tonight, the Sixers head west to face the Clippers, and the spread is teeny tiny. FanDuel has the Clippers favored by just 1.5. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
The buzzer sounded in Boston, and the Golden State Warriors are 7-1.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast.
We're getting some similar vibes. That was a team that started off 18-2 in the national media. Nobody believed in them, much like this team today. But what Golden State does is an incredible defensive first half. The second half, they start hitting shots. They go down by, I think, 6 or 7. It was 7 late in the fourth quarter. There's 5 minutes to go in the game. And then from there, Kevon Looney, offensive rebounds. Wiggins puts it together. Curry hits dagger after dagger. Anderson knocks down his free throws. Thing of beauty, man.
Yeah, and they were getting points tonight, by the way, too. So we'll get to dust that off later in the show. Just everything you could have possibly wanted from tonight. Obviously, you get the Warriors win, but what a game. Back and forth all night. Yet the Warriors started like crap, took a pretty big lead in the second, and then the Celtics came back in the second half. That third quarter where Steph and Tatum started going back and forth for a little bit. Like, this was awesome. And they played both ends. Warriors and Celtics played playoff intensity defense all night tonight.
Yeah.
What more could you want as a Warriors fan than what they just produced? That was awesome.
What more could you want as an NBA fan, man? It had a little bit of everything. It had the Celtics going up like I think it was 15-3 really early. Yep. Went up by 11 or 12. Subs come in, and what do the subs do? They shoot their way right back in it. Buddy Hield hits 3 in a row. Then Kyle Anderson, he has a trifecta heat check.
Hey,
he says, hey, that's 3 for me. You can count. Anderson does that, and then Kuminga gets involved a little bit. Moody had his moments in today's game after getting the start for Golden State. And then at the end, it's the tried and it's the true. It's Looney getting the offensive board, Steph Curry hitting threes, and Draymond Green just being a catalyst like he's been all season long. This one really shifted, though, in the second half with about 5 minutes to go in the game. Warriors were down 7. Andrew Wiggins hits a bucket. And there was a clear momentum shifter that was involving a challenge. Steph Curry came off a screen. Doris Burke was 1,000% confident She had good analysis tonight, but this one,
Yeah.
she was like, it's coming back. It's coming the other way. Oh, that stings. So the Warriors, they were already getting the talking points ready for the change of pace. And as Lee Corso would say, not so fast, my friends. Curry goes to the line, knocks down the free throws, and then by the time I got down to the studio and set up my equipment, Dubs are back up 1.
In Doris's defense, that was one of a number of just bizarre calls tonight. It's one thing to not overturn that call because it was certainly a foul. Like, Steph probably deserved to go to the 3-point line, and they rarely call the illegal screen that Kevon Looney set. But if you're going to review it and look at the screen, they literally just lied about what they saw on the video. Like, his feet are not outside his shoulders. Yes, they are. We're all looking at it. So you'll take it. More Warrior fans will take it. But it was both ways all night. They were calling touch fouls and letting harder stuff go. Like, it was a bizarrely officiated game. And I wonder if some of that is you just don't get a lot of defensive intensity at this level for 48 minutes in the regular season. Like, the refs might have been caught off guard as much as anybody else. You love to see it, man. You love to see two teams who neither of them are at full strength. Both of them have had a great start to the season, but like, this game doesn't mean as much to them as it does to people watching, right? We're the ones who care about the first matchup between the Warriors and Celtics. To them, it's a game. It's a game against a good team, but it's not end all be all when it's game 8 or 9 of the season, right? They played like this mattered, and I'm thrilled. What a time to be alive. You mentioned
what a time to be alive. And how about Kata, man? I mean, the fact that he had his coming out party, he was impressive.
But Looney, to your point earlier, changed this game down the stretch. He absolutely changed the game. The reason the Warriors slipped behind by 5 or 7 in the fourth quarter is because they could not clear a rebound to save their lives. I sent you a text right before Looney came in, rebounding, Chuck, rebounding.
12 boards for the Celtics in the game, 12.
Yeah, and it felt like 8 of those were in a 3-minute stretch in the fourth quarter, right? There was a stretch where it wasn't that they were shooting better or that the Warriors defense slipped. It's just every time they missed, they got the rebound until they made it for like 3 minutes. Kevon Looney just shut it off. He just came in and shut it off. All of a sudden, a massive rebound advantage that seemed like the entire Celtics team was just grabbing every board. Kevon Looney came in and it ended. And I think it shows you with this team how many different buttons Steve Kerr can press at any given moment, and how, and I think it'll get better and better as he gets to know this group more and more. But to have the luxury of, I didn't love the way he used Gary Payton tonight, but to have the luxury of Gary Payton.
We had an argument. You could tell the people about our argument over text. I said Gary Payton just played an incredible 5 minutes of basketball. I thought he was a nice spark off the bench. And you said, Chuck, come on now. What's he doing going in a game down 11 early?
Yeah, it's not. I don't disagree with you, but it is a weird choice to me. Down 14-3, 5 minutes into a basketball game with Buddy Hield sitting right there, that you bring Payton in, and they didn't get back. They didn't actually start to come back until he did bring Buddy Hield in the game like 3 minutes later. The first thing Gary Payton did was miss a three.
Buddy Hield's a difference, man. Buddy, at this point, he's a difference. And we're still waiting for we've had the one game where it was the experience. We had stretches against the Rockets where it was like, all right, Buddy Hield is not high pressure situation, put the ball in his hands and let him cook. But what he is in this Terry Stotts motion offense, and here's the thing, I know it's coming every single time. It's is it the thumb play? I forget exactly what they call it. But I watched some sets of it on Twitter, and every single time it's that first read to Buddy Hield off the screen, catch and shoot. And the Celtics were going behind him. They couldn't get through the screen, whatever it may be. And Hield was getting off clear looks over and over again.
Draymond and Looney know how to set that screen better than almost anybody. And so part of it is Buddy's on a heater, right? Part of it is he's just hot and he's playing great. Part of it is this is a really good fit. Steve Kerr and the Golden State Warriors know exactly what to do with that player. Exactly what to do with that player. And I got to say, he is never going to be 2019 Klay Thompson on the defensive end, but the consistency of defensive effort and not making key defensive mistakes, I've been really happy with it so far from Buddy Hield. And like you said, don't let him ball handle down the stretch, but otherwise, he's doing everything you could possibly want from him. The story of the season so far, not that there haven't been some bumps, Steph missed some time. DeAnthony Melton's still out. Apparently, Pajemski is dealing with a thing now, but no notes really. Like so far, so good, fellas. They're really off to a hell of a start, and tonight was the cherry on the early season ice cream sundae.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to try to find the biggest complaint of the entire season, it's I thought Pajemski was going to shoot it better, and Pajemski doesn't even play tonight. We're not even talking his name, and the Warriors still get the job done. I actually have a buddy that's from Rhode Island, but he claims Boston for some reason. Geographically, I'm sure they're very close, but I don't know exactly how close. But it's his team, and they thought it wasn't even going to be a game today. We'll get to the spread in a minute, but they thought it wasn't even going to be a game. And not only was it a game, it was a game that the Warriors won and led for a large portion of this game. And not only that, it had shades of the Rockets where you felt like you blew a pretty big lead in the second half. You weren't playing good basketball, and they rallied the troops. They found the combination that worked down the stretch, and that's basketball, and that is situational ball